You're watching The Breakfast Club.
For us, this is a really exciting day. I just wanted to give folks a little history on how we got here. On June 29th, at the end of June, I text Charlemagne, happy birthday, and had a couple words. And he said, thank you, Coach. I have an idea. And I said, great. Call me when you get a chance and let's talk about it. So the next time we talked, he said, I would love to do a radiothon. I think the Breakfast Club wants to do it. We want to do it, everything going on. And I thought, what an amazing idea. And the reason it's an amazing idea is a couple reasons. One, we've never done that. But the most important reason is the power of radio is so strong that we represent our listeners. Some would say our constituents. We are the voice of our listeners. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we bring forth the information they need to know. And with that being said, the concept of making change for change happened from there. And it was a long process. It was a process that included a lot of people to try to pull something together. We started to look for a charity that made sense, that was in line with our values of social justice and equality for all and treatment for all. And that's when we found the Gathering for Justice. So with that being said, I'm very proud today to be here. It's actually, I know we've had an incredible year, but this is probably one of the proudest moments I've had all year because we've worked really hard, and this is really showing the power of radio and really galvanizing our listeners to do what they always want to do, which is be part of something bigger than ourselves. So with that being said, welcome to Breakfast Club, Angela Yee, DJ Envy, Charlemagne, the God.
What's happening? How are y'all today? Happy holidays. All that good stuff.
And thank you to everybody who participated in our radiothon because it was really just everyone donating, whether it was 10 cents, a quarter, a dollar, and of course we had some bigger donations, but it really made such a huge difference for us to have a successful first ever radiothon.
Yeah, and hopefully it won't be the last. I think that it was a very good opportunity just for us as radio personalities, but more importantly, public servants to serve the needs of the public, because we've been seeing what the Gathering for Justice movement has been doing out here for a long time. We saw what Carmen Perez and Linda Sarsour and Tamika Mallory have been doing as far as the Women's March. We see what Colin Kaepernick is doing with the Know Your Rights camp. We see what the Justice League NYC is doing. And, a lot of us aren't on the front lines like they are. And if you're not on the front lines like they are, at least we can empower them while they're on the front lines. And I feel like that's what we did.
I think for the most part, a lot of people always say, yeah, I can't make it to a march. I don't know what to do. What can I donate to? And this was the perfect way. And we got so much information because people started telling us what they needed the money for. Because people would say, well, what do you need the money for? Well, when we go out there and protest and, how am I going to pay my bills because I'm out there on the front line? That goes
people
to
getting
that.
locked up.
People get locked up in bail and lawyers. That
Gas money,
that.
hotels.
Gas money,
The thousands of
hotels,
porta potties at the
buses,
Women's March.
porta potties. There's so many things that you just forget about. But these things have to be paid for, and this is where this money is going to.
Yeah, and it's cute when, you repost Colin on the front of GQ, or it's, cute when you retweet Linda or one of them, but they need money at the end of the day. These organizations need money.
Right, and I think for us in particular, we can really speak to these organizations because we personally know the people that work there, and they're going to be here with us today also. But we were on the air that day, Thursday, November 16th. We were on from 6 a.m. to midnight raising funds.
And I think the biggest thing is it just wasn't adults. It was also kids. That day, my daughter had her permit test, and I couldn't be there. And I wanted to be there for her first drive. She passed the permit test, but she knew how important it was. And the permit test, she got 98 out of 100, and she called me when I was on radio. We were on radio all day. We was stinking. Well, I was stinking and smelling.
I wasn't stinking.
I didn't stink. I don't know what he's talking about.
I was stinking and smelling. And my daughter donated $98 because she was like, I passed 98. I want to do something. And I was like, everybody's getting it, not just adults. Kids are getting it, and kids are donating as well. And that meant the world to me,
Yeah, and you knew it. I'm one of them old school people that still believe in God. So you knew that it was God when I reached out and I was like, yo, let's do Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights camp, and let's do the Women's March. It was like, yo, we can only do one. But then we found the Gathering for Justice, which is a nonprofit founded by Harry Belafonte, and all of them, they're a fiscal sponsor for all those various organizations. So it just worked out.
And I'm sure as we watch the news every day, we see how much work really does have to be done. So it's nice to know that we have people who are on the front lines.
Yes.
and and to learn new ways that you can participate and make sure that these front lines are funded by us. So it was just a great experience.
And salute to the Gathering for Justice organization. They are a nonprofit founded by Harry Belafonte. They are a fiscal sponsor for the Women's March, the Justice League NYC, and Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights Camp. They're founded by Harry Belafonte. If you don't know who Harry Belafonte is, I mean, he's an icon. And, he's an icon who, was one of the people who were funding the civil rights movement back in the day for Dr. Martin
First
Luther
artist
King
to
Jr.
sell 1 million records.
First artist to sell 1 million records, first artist to go platinum, and he devoted his life to activism. So let's bring them out right now. Please, warm welcome for Mrs. Carmen Perez, Linda Sarsour, my man Myson, and please make some noise for Mr. Harry Belafonte.
Yes.
Well, first of all, Carmen, could you tell them why it's very important that they donate to organizations like the Gathering for Justice Movement?
Of course. So good morning, everyone. My name is Carmen Perez. I'm the executive director of the Gathering for Justice and the co-founder of Justice League NYC, as well as one of the national co-chairs of the Women's March. I've been working with Mr. Belafonte for the past 15 years, continuing the legacy of Dr. King through trainings across the country grounded in Kingian nonviolence, which is the ideology of Dr. King, as well as working with young people directly who are impacted by incarceration and poverty. And so it's important to actually, donate to organizations like ours, because not only are we on the front lines, but we're training the new wave of activists. We organize conferences every other year called Growing Up Lockdown, trying to bring juvenile justice experts together to really look at solutions. What are the solutions in their communities, understanding that those who are directly impacted are also the ones that have the solutions to reform the criminal justice system. And so, yes, I'm excited to be here with my mentor and my boss and my colleagues from Justice League NYC. And to thank all of you at iHeartRadio and the Breakfast Club. Thank you for doing this for us. This means everything. We have a team that has been mobilizing for the past 4 years around raise the age, policies that impact young people, also making sure that kids no longer go to Rikers. And so there's a lot of work that needs to happen, and so we're just happy to be here.
I want to ask Mr. Belafonte, when you were younger and you could have, he's still young,
Still young.
absolutely,
Still young.
absolutely. But you know what I mean.
Still young.
You could have ignored a lot of the
I
things.
got you covered.
Yeah, you could have. You was a huge star. You were selling 1 million records. You could have ignored a lot of the things that were going on in your community and with your people. Why was it so important for you to get involved even back then?
It wasn't difficult, not at all. I would like to just waive all theories that somehow this was a hard thing to do. If you're born in poverty, fighting against poverty is not a hard thing to do. It's a condition, it's a state of being that needs to be approached with a sense of courage, vigor, and to be most reliant on the community that suffers from the disadvantages of poverty. So for me, growing up in Harlem, growing up in the mountains of Jamaica, the island in the Caribbean, coming back with an immigrant crowd that flooded our community of Harlem with a large Caribbean constituency, I felt comfortable in the environment. Everybody was experiencing the same challenges and the same difficulty. What I think was the most fortunate for me were those who became my mentors, those who became my role models. As a very young man, I met a great warrior by the name of Paul Robeson, and no tree stood as tall in our forest as did Mr. Robeson. Right in his shadow was a man by the name of W.B. Du Bois, one of the great intellectuals of the 20th century, one of the great political theorists. And I sat at their feet and in the wake of their anointing. And I decided that of all the things I could aspire to be, those were the men that I most wanted to be like, and the things that I wanted to most be challenged by. Singing and gaining so much global notoriety was the easy part. Easy because most of the people to whom I appealed, the audiences that listened carefully to the voices that stood on the platform that I shared with many great artists of our time, Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee and Odetta and Miriam Makeba and Huey Masekela, and I could go on and on. Big Bill Brunsey, all of these artists who were not the most popular at the moment that I met them, but I felt deserved the platform to be heard by the audiences that need to hear what they have to say. So when I came into this place and I looked at all this power, all this love and all this anointing that was given to me by so large a constituency, the biggest question to myself wasn't whether I deserved it or not. The biggest question for me was, what do I do with it? And I felt that for me to take every ounce of energy and resource and investing in the young people of my community, investing in the young people who flooded our streets with hope and courage, that they become part of the campaign of liberation. I had a lot of company on the way. A guy named Malcolm X, a guy named Martin Luther King Jr., so many people who made up our movement, the women, Ella Baker. Ella Baker, she was one of the great powers of our century. But most importantly, it was knowing that those resources invested in our young people who had the courage to stand up and face the enemy with courage and with conviction was where I could most powerfully invest my time and my energy. You know, it's tough to be in the liberation business because you spend most of your time being a beggar. And I think for almost 70 years of my life, and I'm 90 now.
Wow.
Don't be too hasty. But I'm 90 now, and I'll say that a good part of that, 70 years of those 90 was spent in a relationship to activism, in a relationship to members of my community. And if it had not been for the men and women who so courageously met the challenges of our day, I would never have known quite where to go. The begging part was difficult, still is. I'm still a beggar, and I beg for resources. But I think people don't quite understand the details of the application of those resources. Each time a black child is shot down in the streets and murdered, that child and that child's family has to be given an embrace, has to be told that the community will be at your service. We have to pay for those funerals. We have to pay to bury our young. We have to pay to bury those who may not have died but were brutalized in the process. you only know about the ones, Trayvon and all the others who died because that's the headline. But nobody thinks about the hundreds and thousands of young people in the movements all over this country who are brutalized and are crippled and need to be attended to for the rest of their life, the rest of their lives. So when people think about raising money, it goes to an application in human need that cannot be left unattended. And without those resources, I don't think we would have been able to achieve much that we have achieved. My good fortune was that I should have lived so long, and at least long enough, to come upon young people who just coincidentally we passed each other in our journey and stopped long enough to recognize the worth in one another. And no person has been more endowed with the right to be listened to and to be followed in the courageous way in which she has stepped into the space and used her organizing ability and used her courage and her strength and her tenaciousness to lead so many of the moments that have yet to be heralded. Most people don't know quite what it is that Carmen Perez has done with all of her colleagues. Without Carmen, a lot that we've achieved could not have been achieved. I am on medication. And you shut up. I have to take it every morning to get through the day. But I must say I get through the day smiling. Anyway, I'm really here because institutions like this station that has understood its power, but more importantly, in understanding its power, has understood the need in applying that power strategically to the cause of those who have been disenfranchised. And I cannot think of anything more worthy and more rewarding than to have shared this rather new path we're carving out for ourselves. Because part of being a beggar is having to go to the rich and to beg them for resources to be able to reach down and apply what's needed for the poor. It's ironic that those very same rich people are sometimes the offenders. And a lot of times one has to stand on a platform and wrestle with that reality. But the truth of the matter is that the true contributors and the true spine to the body of our politics are the young people that step out and be heard and do what they do and willing to pay the price that they pay so valiantly each time they step into the breach. And that's the way it was in my day when I was young and learning about the labor movement and learning about the Second World War and participating in that struggle against fascism and all that it did to oppress, looking at all the indecencies of power and what it has done to destroy those who are powerless. And part of the great reward for me has been to meet so many men and women like Ella Baker, like Fannie Lou Hamer, like many, many others. And now to see young Carmen Perez stepping into that space, leading the way she does, and all those who have chosen to rally around her voice and rally around her strategy, I think does us honor and makes us have a sense of invincibility.
That's right.
Yeah, really.
Really.
That's another one.
I just want to say that in this moment, I'm just so deeply honored and humbled to be here with a living legend and someone who inspires us and allows us to understand that we stand on the shoulders of giants. We're not just here and woke up one morning to fight for injustice. We're carrying on a tradition in a country where there have been many communities before us who have had to fight for their freedom in this country. And many of those communities, including our Black sisters and brothers, indigenous sisters and brothers, have been fighting for liberation and freedom since the days of the founding of this nation. And I want Mr. Belafonte to know that we stand here because you stood. And because of your commitment to the movement, we stand today, and that we will, and we commit to you that we will continue this to the day, to the last breath that we all have. We are in this. And I was telling Mr. Belafonte earlier that in the past 10 days, I got arrested like 4 times. And I want you to know that we do that because you give us courage. We do that because we want to make you proud, and we want to make those who came before us proud. And we hope that 60 years from now, people will say they stand on our shoulders. And then it's because our leaders, we stand on their shoulders and those before them. So I hope that everyone here finds a way to participate in this work. And yes, we did have some rich folks that donated, which was awesome. But the most beautiful part was looking at the list of people that gave the $20, the $10, the $15. Like everything counts. We need bail funds. We need to make sure that these families that Mr. Belafonte talked about have the resources. No one in this country should have to beg for money to bury their child in this country. No one in this country should not have access to good legal services just because they're poor. That is unjust and unfair. So our work is not just rooted in individual cases, it's in systematic change, passing legislations and policies across this country. It is about electoral politics. We have a whole electoral strategy for 2018, and we promise you that in 2018 we're going to win, Mr. B. And we're going to win big, and we're going to win in the right places, and we're going to win with people of color and women and progressives, people who believe in real criminal justice reform, people who believe that Black Lives Matter for real, not just because it's a hashtag. And we're willing to put our bodies on the line because people like Mr. B and Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Diane Nash and Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer, and I can sit here for days and name them, they put their lives on the line. So I hope that you join us in this fight. The Gathering for Justice is the place to be. It is what I call a horizontal organization. This ain't about who's the boss. It's about who has a skill that they can offer to the movement, and the Justice League and the Gathering for Justice is a place. If you're a graphic designer, we need you. If you know how to do, if you're an app developer, if you do websites, like it's not just, I don't need the organizers with the jeans and the sneakers. Those are awesome, we have plenty of those. We need people who know how to fundraise. We need people who have the contacts, people who understand media strategy, media advocacy, communications. So any talent that you have, I promise you will know how to use it. So we hope that you join us at the Gathering for Justice. Your donations are tax deductible to the fullest extent of the law, and we promise you it's going to the right place. And y'all see us all the time. You already know. If there's good trouble happening in New York City, we're probably behind that. If there's some good trouble happening somewhere else, we're probably there too. That's just who we are, and we do that because of people like Mr. B.
Yes. And one thing that stands out to me that Mr. Belafonte said is that, he felt like they were beggars, and I don't feel like the people that are fighting for us on the front lines, risking their lives and livelihoods, should ever have to be beggars. So, let's get to the money, all right? They didn't have to beg for this at all.
That's right.
All right?
And there were a lot of people who were tweeting out this is their first time ever donating to anything. So I think that's a great start.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So are we ready to bring that check out? We are proud to say that, for our first ever Change for Change, we were able to raise a total of $829.92. Yes, and that is going to the Gathering for Justice organization.
The 92 cents, man, 'cause I appreciate that.
Salute to people like the Marshall Mathers Foundation. Salute to Diddy, DJ Khaled, Will.i.am, Kevin Hart, Nick Cannon, Ludacris, Lala. Lala Anthony, Elvis Duran, Dr. Oz, Common, Angela Rye, Swiss Beats. Whole lot of people donated and made this possible. So make some noise for the Gathering for Justice movement.
Absolutely.
And thank you to all of our listeners and friends and everybody who donated as
Pro
well.
Style.
Yes.
Pro Style, Clue, everybody on the station
Thea.
too, everybody that donated. We are so grateful and so thankful. And thank you, Thea, for allowing us to do this.
We also want to thank
appreciate
our
it.
sister Tamika, who's not here to join
Salute
us
to
today,
Tamika.
and the rest of our Justice League family, our Gathering family across the country, and everybody who continues to inspire us to be on this path for freedom and justice.
And this is not a one-time thing. If they want to keep donating for Gathering for Justice, where should they go, Carmen?
GatheringForJustice.org.
Yes. Yes, thank y'all. And my man Myson is here. Salute to my guy Myson. He wants to end with some spoken word.
For Mr. Belafonte.
Yes.
I sat and talked with a legend and I eagerly listened. He told me how he marched with Dr. King because he believed in his mission. He invested his money and his time to change our people's condition. And all I could think as I heard this man speak with conviction is, I don't have the right to do nothing. Because Mr. Belafonte sacrificed for people like me. So if he decided to do nothing, then where would I be? You see, if he was just content with his celebrity status, there wouldn't be a Justice League or Black Lives Matter. So I don't have the right to do nothing. Because we stand on the shoulders of our elders. We got to continue his fight against the system that failed us. Mr. B tells us he drills in our mind. We got to carry this torch. You see, this is our time. Injustice is a crime, but it's about execution. And those directly impacted must be the solution. So I don't have the right to do nothing. I'm on a mission. I'm screaming until they listen. Dr. King died for freedom. I'm carrying on tradition. My people want justice. I'm carrying that petition. Police is out here killing us. We're going to need some more convictions. Peaceful and passive are not the same thing. Know the difference. We are not supposed to lay down and die with no resistance, so I don't have the right to do nothing. I don't have the right not to fight for my life. It is a gift from God. So with all of my might, I will protect my people, my family, my home. I hope y'all gonna fight with me. Y'all ain't gonna leave me alone. So when my feet get weary and I can no longer sprint, I just think about the babies that's dying in Flint. And I say, I don't have the right to do nothing. God bless you.
Hey.
All right.
Thank y'all very much. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Harry Belafonte. Thank you, Linda Sarsour. Thank you, Carmen Perez. Thank you, Myson. And appreciate everybody who donated to the Change for Change and the Gathering for Justice. Thank y'all.